Hi there, Spencer here. I wanted to first thank you for stopping in. I'm just going to share some thoughts on 4 different types of people that I have observed over the years, now doing over a decade of coaching hundreds of business owners and independent contractors. So this is that time of the year here when we start winding one down and we start picking it up into the next one. So while we do that, I've found that there's some basic patterns or identities, if you will, that people fall into, and it'd be kind of fun for you to kind of see which one you might fall into yourself. So before we actually talk about those 4, let me cover 2 things. Number 1, keep in mind that every single one of these has an upside and they have a downside, and you need to understand them so that you can actually move yourself forward if you actually intend to do more business or have a better life, because this is also very much applicable in other areas of your life. So not just business. This could be true in your health. This could be true in your relationships. This could be true in your finances. You got to pay attention to all of that. So how you do anything is how you do everything. You'll hear me talk about that many times. You ever hang out with me, or we actually have a coaching session, I'm sure that's going to come up somewhere along the way. So that's one. Second thing I want you to do is look at your year this year and look at your results. So whatever area of your life or business we're looking at, look at the results. Do you notice a trend? So if we're talking about business, it's really easy to do because we can do it with math. You know, how is your trend upward, downward? Was it, if I plotted it on a graph across a graph, how would it look? A lot of peaks and valleys, that kind of thing. What do you see? So take a few minutes, do that for yourself when we're done with this. See what you think and find the pattern, because the patterns reveal which one of these 4 you're probably falling into. And then you've got, now I want you to think about where you want to go in 2000 blank, right? So whatever the next year is going to be for you, you need to stop and think about for a minute, what do I want to see happen? Do I like that pattern? If that pattern is what I really wanted, how do I step up that game and continue that pattern? And if it's a pattern that you would like to change, then we're going to have to figure out a way to interrupt it. And let me make this note. A lot of people really spend too much time focused on what they did wrong. If your results look pretty good, or they look better, or they've made progress from the previous year, then you probably need to spend a little bit of time looking at how you did that. We don't spend enough time talking about what we did right so that we could actually leverage, grow, or actually do more with whatever it was we did right. So let's get into the 4, all right? And this shouldn't take me real long. So the first one that kind of shows up is the dabbler. That's the person in my mind that is consistently dabbling in the sense that, if this goes well, great. If it doesn't, I'm okay with that too. They really have no emotional attachment to the outcome. So if that's in business, it's pretty easy to see those people. Those are the ones that are doing minimal transactions or minimal results or whatever the business they're doing. If it's in a relationship, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. They have emotional detachment about the whole thing. That's got its advantages because they're probably secure with whatever it is they're doing. The disadvantage, of course, is that nobody really enjoys staying on a low level forever in any area of their life. So I'm going to challenge the dabblers probably to step it up a notch and really figure out what would drive them. So you may not necessarily know what you want to do, but you do need to think about, what could I do to step up my game? Dabblers, basically, it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It's usually a really deflective way to make sure that they don't have to commit. The second person I would mention to you is the thrill seeker. And this is probably by far the most common personality or identity when it comes to the pattern when you look at your year. So if you saw your year do a lot of ups and downs, these are the people that don't understand golden goose and golden eggs. And by that, I mean they focus on whichever one needs the attention at the time. So, I've done a lot of work with real estate agents. So if you're a real estate agent, you would understand what I'm referring to when I say they focus really heavy on lead generation and finding new business, and then they eventually end up having to close all that business. So the lead generation is the golden goose, and the transactions or getting it to close is the golden egg. That's the money. Well, it doesn't really matter what arena. So I just use real estate as an example. Any business, if you're chasing and finding and hunting new business, you're gonna go up and keep doing that until eventually you get enough, and then you have to see it through, or you ride the wave until that money runs out. Then it's back to the boiler, back into that boiling pot of I got to get this thing going so that I can get the numbers back up again. Or with a relationship or health, we allow the circumstances to dictate our reaction. I assume that makes sense. These people are thrill seekers, and they tend to be really good at problem solving, by the way, which is in fact the downside. They're problem solvers, so it's the upside, and it's also their greatest asset. It's also their greatest liability. So that's the second one. The third one is, well, I don't have a really good name for it. I thought of the grinder. It's the person who just burns themselves out. They work. So these are the people that the pattern looks similar to the thrill seeker. The difference is that their peaks and valleys are much bigger. So they'll go longer and they work harder for a longer period of time until something in their life causes them to reevaluate, whether it's an illness, or maybe it's a family member or relationship, something that happens in their business, in their life, that causes them to have to spend more time or lay low, recharge. So they also have a wave, but it's a much bigger wave. And that creates large peaks and valleys, which causes challenges for a lot of people. Upside, hey, they know how to be driven. Downside, it can become a very emotionally and physically taxing for those that constantly grind. So there's some solutions for that too. And then the fourth one, I would call them the systemizer. Now these are the people that are fairly consistent, and a lot of people love, they want to be like the systemizer, but whatever. Here's the deal. Systemizers have a real consistent habit. So if you look at your numbers, or you look at your relationships, you look at whatever, you've gotten into a groove, and you've gotten into a habit, or you've gotten yourself into a rhythm that has getting you the consistent results you want, which is completely fine. So the upside of that is that you end up with a lot better emotional steadiness. You end up with a lot better relationships in terms of being comfortable. Of course, on the backside of that is the more comfort you create, the bigger the challenge that creates for you in actually growing. And these people have a hard time interrupting their patterns and getting out of that system, right? So in all of our material, we call that drifting or default mode. And we got to have those. And yet at the same time, at some point, you have to get a desire to grow. And then you end up having to go into a position where you get disturbed. And then you got to hit threshold enough to actually make a decision to move forward. So that's a whole nother subject. That's a whole nother world. That's part of our 7 C's that we go through in cycling. But right now, I just want you to identify which one of those 4 are you. And then you probably need to call your coach and have a conversation, or someone that you really trust, and ask them, hey, look, I'm constantly riding the roller coaster and I really want to change that. What can I do? Or I'm tired of just grinding it out for hours and days and years. What can I do to systemize this and get myself into a rhythm where I take care of myself every so often, more consistently? Or maybe you're the dabbler and you're so uncommitted, so just, hey, whatever happens, that I can promise you there's some under the skin, under the surface stuff going on there. The dabblers are disconnected because they're really not that interested. And it may be completely fine because maybe they've run their race and they don't have any other level of purpose. But that's really the issue, is purpose. We need to talk about that. All right, so think about that. Call your coach, call somebody, have a conversation, or just take some time to really think about how can I interrupt my own pattern. All right, so I'm Spencer Combs, and I am here to remind everyone to stop settling, keep moving forward. Keep well, keep moving forward. Talk to you later.